All right, Preventus members, we are back with another video, and this week we're going to talk about pandemic posture. And I know we're about 2 months into this thing so far, and probably a lot of you have been sitting more than you're used to. Probably a lot of you are starting to get some bad pandemic hair going and going a little bit stir crazy at the house. I started to notice I'm sitting more and it's affecting my body, and I can feel areas of my body tightening and stiffening up that I don't usually feel. And in talking with my clients, they are also going through that as well. So we want to put together a video that basically just gives you 6 areas of your body we can address to improve and to have a positive effect on with regards to your posture and how we can undo some of the negative effects of sitting. So as you can see, I'm sitting in my chair right now just to show you guys through the worst case scenario, and it's inevitable. We're all going to sit too long in our chair over time, and we're all going to start to see a deficit in our posture. So it usually looks like this. You start off really good for the first few minutes. You're aware of your posture, your chin's tucked in, but then over time you start to get a little lazy and sloppy around your shoulders. You start to let your neck lurch forward, you round out your neck, and next thing you know, you're wondering why everything feels sore. So I know we're all told the perfect situation: get up every 20 minutes, walk around, be aware of your posture, sit up tall. But invariably, we are all going to have a problem with our posture because we are all sitting way too much in front of our screens. So this video, we're going to go through 6 key areas that we can address, and let's dive right in and see if we can improve your posture. All right, so we're going to cover our first area. I should say before we begin that this is for people that are reasonably healthy with limited major significant joint issues and medical issues. So if you have a significant injury or a significant joint issue, these may not be suitable for you, but for the general population, these are all good tips that could help undo some of the negative effects of sitting too long. So the first area we're going to address is the head and the neck area. So commonly, as we saw in the beginning, the head tilt posture happens when you start to let your head tilt forward as you're looking at a screen. So this is a little self-assessment tool you can do to see how that sort of posture has been affected. So all you're going to do is go up against the wall with your heels touching the back of the wall and with your shoulder blades touching the wall, and just see, does your head actually rest on the back of the wall, or is your head coming away from the wall? So for myself, I can tell I've got a little bit of a forward head carriage. So what I want to do is be able to draw my head back to the wall, not by looking up, but just by drawing my chin in like that, looking straight ahead. So that's the first self-assessment technique. Once you're able to assess that and then get the right posture with your chin tucked in, you're going to do 3 exercises here that help to stimulate the nervous system and help to align your posture. So keeping this position, you're going to then have your arms, palms down towards the floor at 45 degrees away from your body. Then you're just going to flap your arms while keeping your head in contact with the wall, looking straight ahead. So 10 of these guys, like so. That's the first part of the series. The second part of the series is then to go from hands down at 45 here, and then to touch your ears. So like this. For 10 of these guys, again, keeping that position with your head perfectly still and your chin tucked in. And then the last one is just like a rope climber. So you're going to be basically grabbing up overhead, like so, keeping your head position here. You'll see that it's quite challenging. If you have that head carriage forward issue, it's going to take some work for you to keep that position and move your arms in this fashion throughout. All right, so that will help address some of the issues you have with your head tilting forward too much. For our next 2 areas we're going to address, we're going to look at the shoulder blades as well as the chest. So again, we're going to use the self-assessment technique that involves the wall. So similar position as we did before, heels up against the wall, shoulder blades up against the wall, and then chin tucked in, head touching. And then just want you to be aware, what is happening with your shoulders? Are they slumped forward? Are they drawn back? Can you feel the tips of your shoulder blades touching the wall? If you can't, and you feel like you have to pull them back to touch, quite likely you're tight in your chest and or your shoulder blade muscles are because they're weak and deactivated. So we're going to show you 2 exercises here that address the tightness in the chest and that activate the shoulder blades. So this is the doorway scapular retraction. So any sort of average size doorway will do. You want to position yourself with your arms up against the door frame with your elbows just below your shoulders, and just kind of grab the frame so you feel more secure. You're going to be at a slight angle to the frame, and then you're basically going to allow yourself to sink into the door frame and then push forward by squeezing your shoulder blades together. So sink and then squeeze the shoulder blades together. So now we're going to wake up those shoulder blade muscles that help to draw our shoulders back and to give us the correct posture that we undo when we're sitting too long. So for our next area we're going to address is the area across the chest and shoulders, so the pectoralis muscles and the front deltoid or front shoulder area. So when these areas get tight, it draws the shoulders forward and causes that roundedness that you see when people are sitting too long. So with that, we are going to simulate a foam roller. If you have one of these at home, great. You don't need one per se. All you need to do to simulate that is fold up some really big kind of beach towels into some nice tight cylinders on the ground like so. Set them apart so that it's about the length of what the foam roller would be. So that's about 3.5 feet. And then you're going to lie on the rollers with your tailbone right on the end, and then your shoulders and head on the rest of it, like so. So you should have good support with your head and your tailbone. And then in this position, we're going to do 3 different movements. So we're going to do a W shape with the arms. So just like so, sink into the towels, let your arms form this W with your hands feeling heavy, and just let that stretch happen across your shoulders and through your rotators and your shoulders. And then we'll also do a T position, like so. And then we'll do a V position, like so. So it kind of tackles all areas of your chest and shoulders, and you can feel how wonderful this is to open up your posture and to really loosen up those tight muscles that tend to cause you to round forward. So now for our 4th segment, we're going to address the muscles of the hips. So specifically the hip flexor muscles. These are the muscles across the front of your hip that allow your leg to lift up in this position. And also the hip extensor muscles, which are the buttock or glute muscles that help to extend your hip. So the self-assessment technique is going to be a hip flexor test. So you're going to have you lying down on, you can do a couch or a bed, something that's fairly elevated, or even like a large ottoman. So for that, I'll have you lying down here, like so. And then you're going to let one leg dangle off whatever piece of furniture you're lying on, and then you're going to tuck the opposite leg in like so, with your head down, and just pull that knee in as far as you can. And what I'm looking for is if this leg comes up quite high like that, so it's above horizontal, that likely means you have tightness in your hip flexors here. If it's sort of dangling at horizontal or below, you're likely okay in that area. So test both sides, see if those hip flexors are tight, and then you can tell whether or not you need to address this area. So if they are tight and they are sitting up quite high, you're going to do a hip flexor stretch. And so for that stretch, basically you're going to be on the floor in a lunge stance with 1 foot forward, 1 foot back. You're going to be sitting up nice and tall and straight here with one leg trailing behind at the knee as a pivot point, and then you're just going to drop the hips forward and reach across like so. So now you're stretching all along the front of that hip area and up through the rib cage. So that addresses your hip flexors. The other part of the hip we're going to address is the hip extensors, or the gluteus or buttock muscles. So for that, what happens when you're sitting too long is those muscles tend to quiet and shut down so that they're no longer active. So when you have tight hip flexors and you have deactivated glute muscles, that causes this dysfunction at the pelvis joint and in the lumbar area, which can cause some back pain or some hip discomfort. So for that, we're going to activate the glutes with this single leg hip bridge. So I'm going to have you lying down. You can go on the floor, or if you've got a soft cushion area to lie down, that'd be great. And basically you're going to be like so with your feet and your knees at about 90 degrees. And then all you're going to do is tuck one leg in, like so. You're going to go up on the heel of the planted foot, and you're going to push straight up into this position here. So now we're using the muscles of the glutes, the hamstrings, to extend the hip up into this position. And then you can basically pulse up and down. Even helps to put your hand right on your butt just to kind of feel that muscle working and to help to activate it. And we're just going to wake up those glutes here. And then do the same thing on the opposite side. All right, so the 5th area we're going to address is the hamstrings. So the hamstrings are the muscles on the back of the thigh. What happens when you sit, those muscles start to get tightened up and pinched, especially when you're sitting on them and there's pressure on them, so they also get some lack of blood flow. So what we want to do is stretch that area. And a good way to test whether or not your hamstrings are tightening up as you're sitting too long is this self-assessment technique. Similar to what we did when we did the hip flexor stretch, you're going to be lying down on an elevated surface like a bed or on an ottoman. And you're just going to assume this position here. You're going to lift one leg straight up like so. And then you're going to see whether or not this leg can go to 90 degrees. So a lot of times people can only maybe get to about this position here, 65, somewhere between 65 and 90. 90 is considered a healthy angle. I'm a little bit tight right now. I can't do it without bending my knee and cheating it. So try and keep that leg straight, see how far you get. Now the stretch is basically just to take a towel behind the calf area while you're lying back, draw it into a stretch position, not a deep stretch, just a light stretch, and then you're going to push against the towel. So now you're contracting that hamstring against a stretch, and that causes the muscle to relax over time. And then we'll do another pull, push again, see if you can hold for 6 seconds, relax, and we'll do one more here, draw back, and then push again. And so you'll immediately see that that muscle will start to release, and you'll start to feel some relief in that tight hamstring area. All right, we're on the 6th and last portion we're going to address, and that is the back and trunk area. So we're going to look at whether you have tight low back muscles or tight abdominal muscles. So we'll do a self-assessment technique against the wall. So same position, heels touching, shoulder blades touching, chin tucked in, head touching the wall. Once you've got that position established, I want you to reach behind your back and see if you can stick your hand just barely into that space behind your back. And what you'll find is if you have a really big arch, you'll have no problem at all. And that's me. I've got a tight low back, and I can fit my whole fist back there pretty much. So that means my back is tight and I need to stretch that area. If I go back there and I find that my back's really flat against the wall and I can't even get my fingers back there, very likely my abdominal muscles are tight, which is causing me to sort of be in this slouch position, and we need to stretch those abdominal muscles. So they all kind of work off each other. So I'll show you first the stretch for the lower back is called the sleeping child pose position. So this one basically you're just going to be on the floor, on all fours, sitting back on your haunches and stretching and reaching forward with your arms as far as you can. Drop your head down and just relax into that lengthening feeling throughout your back. You should find this is really a nice, enjoyable stretch that gives you lots of relief through your lower back there. So that's for the low back tightness. Now to address the abdominal tightness, basically the opposite type of action. We're going to be arching up in a Cobra type of pose. So you're going to be lying down on your abdomen, up on your forearms here like so, and then you're going to push off the floor, try and extend as high as you can, let your hips sink, and you'll feel stretched through the front of your abdominals if you're tight there. So that'll address that issue. There you go. All right, folks, so there you have it. There's your video on pandemic posture improvement. So we're all going to be sitting longer than we should. We're all going to be having opportunities to have poor posture. And all we can do is just do our best to be aware of that positioning that we're in and to try and get up and move around as much as possible. But if you just even take a couple of these exercises that I've shown you and just apply them to those areas that you know you're struggling with, whether your head's tilting forward too much, you're tight through your chest and shoulders, your back is always stiff and sore, then just try and integrate some of that into your daily routine. And if you do that consistently, you will see a difference and you'll come out of this pandemic with hopefully less joint and back pain and issues altogether with your body. So give it a shot, dive right in, and I look forward to hearing your feedback. Thanks.